Good morning, Good morning. Good morning. Is it on? Okay. Good morning. Thanks for coming in here. How many were with me yesterday? Yeah. Oh. Well, thanks for coming back. We have a lot to go over in a short period of time, so let's get going. Being in the projects, as I told you yesterday, there's a lot of biotech things going on that I was involved with, but it also had a profound effect on my life moving forward and leaving the military to engage in creating products and things that could help us heal without pissing off the government and other corporations. And it was very difficult because coming from working with unlimited amounts of resources in the projects, if you need something and you're part of a project, you get whatever you need. That's where all your trillions go. And so that means we have amazing equipment and things to scan bodies and scan planets, and also Nassim. I told Nassim keep it down. It's funny they put Nassim and I love Nassim. We work together. So I'm going to talk about today about that kind of stuff, and also like the suppressed technology. And I kind of touched a little bit of it yesterday, and I'm going to maybe show some pictures a little bit later towards the end. The technology they have is beyond us because most of it's reverse engineered or was stolen from other countries. The compartmentalized projects are not government owned. Now they have their own projects too, but the reason the government decided to start using the military-industrial complex is because back in the day we were infiltrated by the Germans in our political government, and they didn't trust themselves. So let's form these corporations that are buddy-buddy, and let's give them all the secrets, and when they create something, then we'll buy it from you, whether it's a jet or whatnot. And the interesting thing is a lot of the anti-gravitic devices have already been in use for the last, 20, at least 20 years that I'm aware of. And you don't need to make a spaceship to make an anti-grav. You can put anti-gravitic devices in any type of aircraft. And a good example of this is recently when we were out on a mission in New Mexico, two VTOLs came over in a very remote area with no sound at all. Now, when they were above us, all of a sudden the sound started once they saw us on radar with their heat signatures. Whether they thought we were deer or human, they just wanted to make sure that sound was going to be coming out. And a lot of people have seen like craft flying into mountains, and things like this and disappear because they're using this type of technology. Has anyone ever witnessed something like that? Yeah. So that's how they do it. It doesn't have to be all space age and looking all like you guys see in the movies. Anti-gravitic devices, make a field around a person or a device, and it's easily it's easily to put that into anything, even a vehicle like a car. So be aware of that. So when we see stuff tonight out there, we'll say maybe that's an alleged 747. And hopefully with our night vision and thermals, we can zoom in and maybe see something else. How many of you coming tonight to the C5? Yeah? Oh my gosh, so great. It's going to have a great time. I know there's there was a lot of sign-ups, and I made sure this year that there's going to be chairs for you guys. Because last year we're all just sitting out, and I'm like, where are all the chairs? Man, I got to keep up on Nassim over there. What is he talking about? Goodness gracious. Yeah. Hello, Olivia. Olivia, ladies and gentlemen. A question I get a lot, guys, is, yeah, you were doing this stuff, and, like, when did you come to the realization that, these tissues may or may not have been, human? Which the tissues all had human DNA, but just different percentages of that. And it was towards the end of my service agreement where a body came in. It was a full body, and a couple of bodies came in, but the specific one was kind of warm. And that was unusual because I did a lot of frozen sections, and also I could tell if the tissue's been frozen or put in special chemicals to preserve it. A long time ago, the military were collecting ET specimens and like dumping them in barrels of like formaldehyde and alcohol, not realizing that those tissues would not survive in that. And when they got to their destination, it was just dissolved. A lot of these beings that come to us, or that we shoot down or that crash at these sites are sometimes programmed life forms. So they're grown organically and infused with circuitry and nanotechnology to carry out a mission to actually purposely crash here to help us move along. Because there's a lot of civilizations out there that started when we did, and they're far more advanced, but we've been suppressed since Tesla and Stubblefield, as everyone knows. So working on this body, I realized that I grew up on a farm, so we grew all of our own food, and we had, of course, chickens and cows and pigs and things, and that's how we survived. So I know about hunting as well, which I don't hunt anymore, but it was something that was just part of farm life, and that's what we did. And I remember one time when I went squirrel hunting, and I was skinning the squirrel after I had taken its life, and it was like warm, and it was like, it felt to me that it still was there. It was still conscious. And it was at that point that I came to the realization that I didn't want to hunt anymore or do anything like that, because I felt there was still an energy signature there that maybe could be there for a lot longer. And this has been proven with humans, and we talked about that yesterday. When you leave these chairs, your energy can still stay there for up to a year. And that's why when people pass away and you lay in the bed where they used to lay in, and I can talk from personal experience, that you feel comfortable and you feel that energy and you smell them, and because they're still here, because we're forever. So remember that, that's really important. So this body had a profound effect on me because I got out of the projects at a really good time, because if I stayed any longer, I knew I would have to become a lifer. And because of what I've learned, I wanted to take that technology and share it with you. And that's what we're doing. How's that coming, Olivia? I'll just put whatever up. I'll just start. Yeah. Just from the beginning. I'm going to jump around. You guys know how I am. I just jump around and talk about whatever the picture is, and we'll jump around. Is that okay? No, yeah, that's fine. And then they asked me, well, how does it affect your personal life? Well, at the time, being at that young age and still experiencing life and trying to find out, where I'm going to be 20, 30 years from now, I did not think I'd be up here doing this for sure. It was like something I thought I would never be able to come forward, but because of what had happened with the laboratories that I was funding through my main business, they caught on, and we had to get the system, a zero-point energy system, validated, and that's where my life started getting a little bit more threatening. So I could talk about this all day. I mean, ET stuff, because they don't care about that, because no one's going to believe me, but they don't want me telling you about the energy stuff that they have and the new technologies that are coming out, or anything to do with the word cure or helping someone preventive medicine before you get to that stage. So, unfortunately, I'm going to talk about that. Yes, there were extraterrestrials. UFOs don't exist because they're all extraterrestrial vehicles. I say that because I want people to start learning about that, because obviously, with all the new things coming out, if you just noticed what the Navy posted, that there are UFOs, and now we're letting our pilots talk about it. That's an easy way out for them because they're still saying they don't know what it is when they know what it is. So I'm really eager to see how far that's going to go. And we talked a little bit about that on the panel yesterday. Who was on that panel last night? Yeah. So I'm glad that they brought that up, because it's important to show that, number one, we are moving in that direction. Okay, it is. Disclosure is happening. We're moving in that direction. And what's important about that is now our younger generation is going to read this, and they're going to see and realize that there's something not right, like most of you probably experienced growing up, or maybe you were a late bloomer and realized there are people out there, and we're like us, that want to make a change and want to believe in these things. But of course, we need tangible evidence for the scientific community, which they have secretly, a lot of universities and other organizations and religious factions. They don't want to release that out because then it ruins their story about where we came from, which is not completely true. So we have now excavated a lot of amazing technologies and archaeological expeditions that show, I can't tell you exactly, I'll just say tablets and other information regarding that. It's kept, a lot of this stuff is kept with private organizations that are now wanting to release the information. No one wants to stand up here, though, and release it, so I just said, I know these guys, they're cool, I'll do it. When you meet an extraterrestrial, they're very compassionate. Most of them are more advanced than we are, but that doesn't mean anything because we're still one, and they do understand that. So they're very compassionate about it. They also speak many languages, almost unlimited, but they don't really utilize that because it's a language of telepathy that we had to learn. And we also went through in-services, the technicians there, of how to act around an extraterrestrial, especially what I was working with side by side, these ETs. And these ETs are very human-like, by the way. They're just more advanced. The cartilage is a little different. You can tell by their ears, their nose. Sometimes the eyes are farther apart than a normal human or more closer together. So you can actually pick these ETs out, and I'm also writing a book about that, and I'm going to do a presentation on Gaia on that, and we'll get more into that because I can't give you everything right now because you won't come back next year. Olivia is always like, well, what about what? I was like, no, if I tell you everything, then you're just going to leave. I want to stay interesting for a little bit. So one experience I had in an operating room system environment, and these operating rooms are not like you see that we have at the local hospitals. They're all pressurized, and it's like going through a couple airlocks, and you have these suits that are completely self-contained and very ambidextrous. It's not uncomfortable. They are measuring your heart rate. They're measuring your hormones. This suit tells them everything. So if I'm walking into a room and I have any anxiety, they will come on the intercom and say, Smith, are you okay? Yeah, I'm completely fine. I'm sitting next to a physician ET who I'm assisting doing this, and even though I was prepared, and you're just not prepared, and because you're so amazed of, like, this person's not from here, and I'm not allowed to say, hey man, where are you from? What's going on? I'm from Plainfield, New Jersey. Been there? Yeah. Unfortunately, I did have all those questions, and as soon as I saw this person and they looked at my eyes, all those questions were answered, which I did not ask telepathically. He just gave it to me because he already knew. It's a humbling experience to be with someone where you cannot have secrets. There is no way to have a secret. So it's going in that direction for all of us. So hey, make your amends now, because they're gonna know about you going into the cookie jar. And you can't blame the dog or your child for that, because they will know. I love it because it's effortless to work with someone with the energy exchange of telepathy, because it happens so quickly. It's like a download. And when we do CE5 expeditions with our teams, I usually have them memorize 300 to 500 questions before we go out for our core team, not people that we're training, like we're doing a training tonight, to get you ready if you want to do real CE5s with us, which are about 3 to 5 days long in undisclosed locations around the United States and around the world. So look forward to that at emrysmith.net in the future. And one experience I had, the ET was in front of course, across from me, and it was on a Friday, and I was anxious to get out because I had a hot date that night, and I was going to the movies, and it was Jurassic Park. So, of course, I was also thinking about the date, like, you know, what's going to happen after. But I actually loved Jurassic Park, and I felt bad because I ignored her the whole night. And then after, I was so excited about the genetic stuff they were doing on Jurassic Park that I still ended up, you know, of course, taking her out to eat. I'm saying this because the ET looked at me as we're operating and says, "Oh, you're going to have a nice night, aren't you?" And they smirk and smile. They're very comical. And I just, you know, yeah. And everything else you know about me. Thanks for not bringing the other stuff up. So they're delicate and compassionate about us because they were once us. And they're from us. And that's for sure because they have human DNA. One big family, right? Oh, what do you have? Oh, well, if you guys weren't in my last event, you know, a station at England Air Force Base and Kirtland Air Force Base, the introduction, thank you for that introduction, but one thing about the introduction, which she did not know about, is I was never paid by Los Alamos Labs or Sandia Labs. I was an active duty service member doing some moonlighting positions. Just for the record, these facilities are on these bases are like military installations. If you guys have been through Los Alamos, there's gates everywhere just to get through the town. And beyond that is an underground facility that goes for miles, including the underground facility at Sandia Labs. So I did have to go through, you know, their gate as well before going through this. You probably heard me mention where I was checking in at this fire tower, which they removed now, but it's still next to the water tower. And I was speaking to a couple of my colleagues yesterday about this that knew exactly the spot I was talking about. So it's nice to hear, I won't say their names, but you know who they are. That, and a couple of these people also worked at Sandia Labs. Anyone here worked at Sandia? No? Los Alamos, I think, no? Oh, yeah? Which one, Sandia or Los Alamos? Are you still there? No? What did you do there? Yeah. A lot of the supercomputers were designed and made there. And we keep all this information in a database at the bottom of the sea and in space and other locations. And the great thing is now that the other facilities around the world are now sharing information because except the Vatican, are sharing information. Do I have a picture of the Vatican? Is there a Vatican picture of the library? No, not one. I was approached. We had to go to the Vatican. We had a craft and a being and a device. And we play this game. There's no money exchanged, only information for information. So we have a thing, we might work on something just for a year, and if we can't figure it out, then we'll start calling Australia, New Zealand, and Russia, and China, and the Vatican to find out, and because we already know what they have, so we act dumb. We're like, well, we heard that you may have this information we need to complete this mission to figure out how this device works. And they will say, well, you have this that we know. I'm like, the Vatican's like a military. They're like their own amazing organization. They have an amazing library underground there. So we will fly over there and have an exchange. Now, the exchange isn't this, where I walk in, we have a team, and I'm part of a team, and here's this, and thank you, goodbye. No, we don't even get to hold this. It's on a skiff, or it's on a cargo plane, or it's on a crate, or it might be in an envelope, depending what they want. And that's done behind the scenes. So what they do is they take us into these underground facilities, which are huge, half size of football fields, and up to 6 stories high, underground, with a plethora of these qubits on the walls. And these special type of escalator devices, not anti-gravitic, but they are able to move up and down through these glass windows where they have collected spacecrafts and extraterrestrial bodies, and they also have a section that has live beings in it too. Oh, shoot me a slide. Let's see what we have. DD Form 214, if you don't believe I was in the Air Force, look it up. You're here, obviously, so keep going, yeah. 2 silver achievement medals by the Colonel. If you don't believe me, there he is. Keep going. Some training. We're doing mock training. It was at during Desert Storm, Desert Shield, so we were preparing for that. I was connected to an air transportable hospital where we can fly anywhere in the world, set up in 48 hours with a full operating room and radiology and a laboratory. Keep going. Oh, God. Cool guy. If I saw him now, probably put him in a headlock and wake him up. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh. Go ahead. We have. Is my fly open? In the projects, the operating rooms are not only like in this environment. We have to make operating rooms with special atmospheres, and some of them are completely submerged. So we are underwater to keep the body at its normal state. Because if you do bring it up to the surface, this atmosphere and the oxygen would disintegrate some of these beings. So we actually have to go and work on beings underwater in these amazing facilities. There's one off the coast of Florida, and I can't tell you where the others are, but there's a lot of them even in the Marianas Trench. So when they do find specimens, fishermen find a lot of specimens in their nets. They will call the Navy and call their bosses and let them know. And there are some amazing pictures that usually come up just for a day. China has the greatest stuff they catch in their nets, but China has an issue where they can control, they have their own internet system, so if they see or hear, everything's monitored. So if I did see an ET on a boat and I'm Chinese, and I took a picture, and then I was like, I gotta send this to Emery Smith. It takes about 5 minutes because everything that comes out of China is vetted. And I'm meeting, there's a group of, anybody from China here? Where's my China? Yeah. Hey. Great supporters. They had a craft land in Beijing and recently and met with political leaders, and it's kept hush-hush. So I'm meeting with them today, and I'm talking to them about the proper way to release that information. And so wish me luck on that one. So here we are in some suits and working on these are artist depictions that Gaia TV helped make, and I appreciate Gaia. Thank you, Gaia, for helping me with that. Gaia.com/Emery if you want to sign up and see my videos. We get more into detail than what we get into here because I'm on a short time frame. But if you want more information, you can check out that on emerysmith.net. Go ahead. Another one. That's portal technology. Keep going. Keep going. These are types of AI and robots that come with us on missions to measure the planet. But they're like seismographs. I mean, they shoot a slow wave radar so we can see, everything that's underground in these areas. And we had many people fall through a surface that looked solid as a rock, and it was 2 miles deep, some of these trenches. So it's like the people in Antarctica and the people climbing Mount Everest. It's very dangerous.
In the other slide, were they taking a dog through?
What was that?
In the previous slide, were they taking a dog through?
Yes. You guys want to know about the Dougie? So I know some of you is a repeat, but we have canines that we genetically make, and they come on these missions with the robot because they have special abilities, canines. They can see in different wavelengths, and they can hear frequencies we can't hear. And even though the dogs have helmets and are outfitted with these things, they have special devices attached to their eardrum, which is attached to the outside of the helmet, and they also respond to colors and frequencies. And so all of our helmets, if we don't want to hear all the chatter of us talking, there's different lights. Like a red light will blink if someone's getting, injured or needs assistance. And there's different tones and frequencies that we hear that we are trained to say, oh, this person needs help, or we need to return back to the area where we came in, or the robot is monitoring everyone and there's an earthquake coming, so we need to go. Or there's atmospheric conditions that can just form immediately within seconds. Hurricanes, tornadoes, all sorts of things. I cannot verify where I was. We're not allowed to know. But what I can verify is I have reviewed in the library, and this library is located below Sandia Labs, and all of those laboratories rent out all the floors down there to corporations to do these classified type of projects. So you have to realize that it's not Sandia Labs doing it. It's not law. That is the security force. The government and the military is securing an area. They don't know what they're securing. Those soldiers do not know what's going on down there. Sometimes the base commander does not know what's going on down there. Let's do the big doggy picture. So some of you can't see that dog, but I can see it. So what we have, I'll get to the dog, but I like this video. This is depicting one of our operating room tables. And these fiber optic looking, they're not fiber optic, but it looks fiber optic, will come down from the ceiling, and they will assist us as a technician or nurse would do. And it also can be controlled from up above because there's people above us in a mirror windows, like you see in teaching facilities when people are learning surgery, and it's kind of like that. These things can come down and they can pick the body up and provide retraction if we need to get into the body. So the tools that we use in modern day surgery are a little bit different in the projects because they're so far advanced. And it's very strong. It's kind of like a fishing line, and there's a lot more than just 8 or 10, which are right here. They can be up to 100 of these kind of things coming down because not all the beings are our size. So we have special rooms to accommodate a 30-foot being. We also have special rooms just for a 13-centimeter being. So this is basically during a crash site extraction down in South America. We came upon a crash site, and there were some ETs there, and they have these special vacuum tubes, which special atmosphere that we can control depending on what species it is, and if we do know what that species is. And they get put in these things, shot into a C-130 or a VTOL, and then taken to an undisclosed location. So when I do get to one of these crash sites, I'm there to basically see what type of species it is it a safe species we can approach, and also distinguish the devices of the species. So not only was I doing tissue sampling, later on that led me to see craft. One of the craft I seen looked like an upside down Jello mold. You know the Jello molds, is like, and it had a hollow middle, and it was about 15 feet off the floor in one of the hangars. And I remember the surgeon saying, "Oh, we have to go." And we were looking at this. We were supposed to take this artery, like we have the carotid artery. Well, we were supposed to take a sample of that, but for some reason, when we got in, there was 3 of these vessels that all looked the same, which was not supposed to be there on prior species of the same race. So he says, we have to go, to the craft. And I was like, and this is the first time I was exposed to a craft in the project. So we boarded a small, kind of like a maglev device, a maglev tube. And once we got to this area, it only took a few minutes, which means to me it was probably 10 miles away, that we got in, and here was this craft. And we were instructed to take a sample of the craft. Oh, confirmation. Sorry. So we took a sample of this craft, and come to find out, the farther away you take the being from the craft, if it's not already dead, it loses that healing power between the craft and the body. But we were doing that because we wanted to see if that DNA, when we measure and test it, it's also like a hard drive. And they have the ability to get into your DNA and see, because your DNA is a crystalline structure that actually holds information. And it holds information not only on the physical level, but on the etheric field as well. So even after you die, you still have this hard drive stuck in every cell. When we do cloning, clones start to remember their past lives. So what's up with that? The craft had the identical genetic DNA makeup as the being we were working on. Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going. I'm skipping, there's some things I did not cover in yesterday's talk that some of you were at, so I want to also show you those pictures as well. Is that okay? All right, cool. This is just a portal down there, Marianas Trench. We have a facility there. Craft are coming in and out of it daily. We're monitoring it. There's been no threat from these craft. We're just monitoring them and studying, how this works, these portals. There's portals all over. There's natural portals. There's man-made portals. We usually build portals on top of landmarks and ley lines that already have portals that were ancient, that have been here, kind of like Stonehenge and these other sacred spots around the planet. The government's caught on to this, these high energy places, like in New Mexico and Sedona and other places around the world in England. So they wanted to study this. Now, what they learned is that there's ley lines, of course, we have, but there's also these same lines that go through the universe and connect all the planets and the ETs, and we are trying to harvest that energy to do travel through these entry points. Oh, enough of the reptilians. Reptilians come in many races, so when I get pictures of reptilians get sent in and we get called out to examine things sometimes, yeah, how many, we're all mutts, we're human, but there's so many different races of us, and the same thing for most extraterrestrials as well. They're having a good time out there in the universe, just like we are here on Earth. They're intermingling. And because they are human, like we are, and have a little bit, they look a little different. But for the most part, they do have the 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, which is really important to know, because if you meet an extraterrestrial that does not, which there's only a few that are gelatinous because of their environment is very high pressure, but for the most part, they're like this. But the reptilians can look in many different ways, just like we look in many different ways. So this is just not one, the only reptilian. I just want that clear, because everyone's like, what about the Dracos? Well, that's like, well, what about the humans on Earth? Well, which ones? There's many different races. Our DNA is different as far as our skin color, our hair color, and also how we were raised in different parts of the world, so it makes us unique. Go ahead. That's the video, right? Yeah. So one of the craft, we came aboard, had this fantastic, amazing crystal in it. So you're looking at, 20 meters here. Across and 40 meters long. And these crystals also were embedded in the walls, and there was nothing else in this craft because this is what I get from some people. So how was the chair? What did the cockpit look like? I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. In the future, it's all consciousness-assisted technology. The craft are grown in space. They use frequencies to do that. But one thing I did find in common with all the craft that I've seen and have investigated was they had crystals in them. Some crystals were made, and some we don't know where they came from, but the crystals are hard drives. And that leads me back to you. Your consciousness can be taken out of your body and put into another shell. And you can do that almost unlimited. You can't live, though, forever, ever, but you can live a really long age. So we can get you to a spot. By the time I left, they were able to keep people up to about 300 years of age, and after that, the brain couldn't keep up with everything, and it started to deteriorate. So the brain was the only setback, the neurons and things like this that would not grow and stay keen. But the bodies were still perfect. So a lot of these people still look like they were 21. They were over 300 years of age. Go ahead. Yeah. We didn't complete this sketch, so I told them to put some shorts on them. Because people always are thinking all these little gray guys are running around naked and da-da-da-da-da. It's not really like that, but this is a good example of a tall white. And we encountered these during a portal mission, and they came to approach us. We're not allowed to engage when we go on any type of mission, but if they engage us, then we're allowed to engage. And believe it or not, it's very rare that we bring security people through these missions to inner Earth and other areas. I don't know where we're at, but the atmosphere was not Earth. So these beings came up and watched us. Since they did not come up and engage, we just kept doing our thing and collecting our dirt and rocks and just looking over our shoulder to make sure nothing's weird. Oh, that's your rock. Oh, I'm sorry. That's just... And it's...
Henry, can I ask a question? This might be a stupid question because we're newbies and a little behind, but are they considered male and female, or are they just all one?
Yes, there is gender. Most of them are both. So men can have children. Women, of course, can have children. Some have both parts to procreate. And not all of them, but a lot of them do. They also, in the future, start looking a lot more like each other because of them working on genetic coding, which makes them appear all the same. But there are little features that if you were living with them, that you would pick out. It's like twins. Like sometimes there's just something a little bit different than an identical twin than the other if you hang out with them. And I had some friends that were twins, and that I could tell. So it's very minute little things, right? And that's how you can decide, what they are, and they don't always also have a frown. People are scared of the reptilians because they always have a normal frown, but it doesn't mean they don't like you. And you have to really, we're so judgmental because I'm looking at you, and maybe I don't like that shirt, or I don't like what you're wearing, or in my case, I didn't like how they smelled. And they know, and they can do this. And I remember during the projects, there was a reptilian, whether it was a hybrid or a real one, I don't know, in the projects. And walking by, I was like, Jesus, man, he stinks so bad. And don't think it. Don't think it. Don't think. To clear it, and we have to take a deep breath before we go and work with these beautiful beings. Because if I had just had a fight with someone, let's say I had a fight with my family, now I'm going to work, I'm all upset inside, and I'll come up, to one of these beings, and I just say, hello, but you're just thinking it, and they know what you're thinking. However, if I'm upset and I go, hello, it sounds like, hello! So emotion is behind the secret of telepathy, and the language is more emotion-based of the language. So by thinking it, and you're upset or you're happy, it also is that emotion goes along with that transmission of that word. Follow me? Yeah. Before. No. Well, there's no secret. They know everything about you right away. So they knew everything about me, but they're compassionate. They're not there for that. I mean, most of these ETs are there. They volunteer to be here. Even after some have been captured, they have decided to stay and help and volunteer to be here. I'm not aware of ETs being captured and tortured. Some of my colleagues have experience with that, but I have never seen that. I've only seen deceased extraterrestrials and alive extraterrestrials that wanted to work with us. As an example of some of the suits, there's many different types of suits we use depending on the mission. The suits control everything, body temperature. It also allows all of us to stay in contact. It also can, the lenses can change because some of the environments have very bright lights that could burn us and hurt us. Kind of like just, too bright of a sun. Even on inner Earth, there's these some places that have never been, they're totally encapsulated, their own ecosystem, and there's this giant light up in, the dome of this gigantic, 2 square mile radius tropical rainforest or Arctic. And we figured it out that where's all this light coming from? And it's kind of like that movie Avatar, where they have everything's kind of like lit up. Yeah. And we found out that the moisture in the air also contains those chemicals in the lightning bugs, and that's how the light comes. It's all from chemicals. And we found out when a lot of moisture gets together in one spot, it will look like a blue sun. Yeah, inside these environments. So we have suits, sometimes depending on, like I said, the environment, if we can breathe, or also a lot to do with gravity and things like that. Go ahead. Oh, here's a good example. This is, I do believe this is the ice, one of the Arctic areas underground. Yeah. So there are tropical zones, Arctic zones, desert zones, and there are pockets of aquifers never touched before that have living beings yet to be discovered. This can happen because how do they survive in an encased aquifer, not attached to any other aquifer? And we found out it was all through chemogenesis, and that's life through chemicals. This has been proven in the Marianas Trench, at the volcanic vents where all these creatures are living in boiling water and stuff with no sunlight. So we are moving in that direction as a human civilization, and eating will just be entertainment for us. You can actually teletransport those proper chemicals and nutrients into your body to survive. And that's what right now they're working on for deep space exploration. And when I came out with my system, the Sequire system, and I was working at the Space Coast Aeromedical Institute as a contractor, and they worked for NASA, contracted out by NASA. They were entertaining of taking me up there and running some tests at the space station on concentrating growth factors and things like that that would help the patients not lose so much bone density and muscle mass. Thank goodness, at that time, there was a huge budget cut, and that project got put off 3 years. I say it was a good thing because my return flight was the flight that blew up over Texas. I found out later through a very high official in the Navy and his wife that I was supposed to be on that one, and everyone on that craft was targeted. And most people don't even know those astronauts. That one craft wasn't like a lot of these famous people that you hear about. It was just a group of these astronauts and payload specialists. Go ahead. You guys, how many saw that yesterday? All right, let's skip it. Okay, go back for a second. So one of our botanists, we hear all this screaming and all the lights are going off and the frequencies, and one of our botanists was working and getting a sample of a plant or something, and there was these giant lotus-looking flowers with these giant tentacles, but they were all just sticking straight up in the air. We didn't know they could actually fold out and grab someone. And sure enough, she was there, and it grabbed her ankle and ripped her 50 feet away from the center, and ripped her across this little desert-looking area. And the canine unit, which we're going to get into, and the 4 of us ran to her. And we don't have big weapons or anything. We have these knives, and we did have to actually cut the plant. And the plant was very conscious, and he was just hungry. And he started, which is, I don't believe it's an intentional thing, but it was intentional for his survival, or her, or whatever. We got it. It was horrific. It was very scary. And at this point, she was, when we actually got to her, let's see if I have a laser. No, these are renditions. They took my Polaroid when I got off this, and they wouldn't let me walk out with. I don't know why. I was like, it's not a big deal. That's why 20 years later I'm here to do, show you. So this centerpiece actually was more like a bowl, and it had a gelatinous material in it for digesting. It was acid. So she got right up to the pedal here, and as we're cutting this off, these things start grabbing the rest of us. But the grip it had on her, it started on the ankle, and then it started going around like a python. And like an anaconda, it started squeezing her. And we were able to grab her, and the canine units were there, and it was an amazing event. And I wish I could just, one day you'll be able to get in here in my brain, and I just want you to know everything I know and experience that. So we saved her, and we found out later that these plants are spread out about 100 meters from each other. And there's a reason for that, because anything that grows in there, they respect that area because that's where they feed. And we did find a half-digested animal in one of the plants. And we only saw the last half, and it looked kind of like a baby deer, as far as we're concerned. But these are conscious beings. Plants are very conscious, and some evolve into humans as well. Go ahead. This is a little bit more industrial than I wanted it to be. However, we do work hand in hand with extraterrestrials, and this was showing that many different things that we work on with not only biologics, but with other things, such as we might get a species in that has deceased, and it might be the same species that we have working for us. So we'll call them in and they'll help us decipher what we're working on and what some things are, and also they help teach us about anatomy. Now there's a library that I had access to in the underground projects, which was very fascinating because my clearance was not that high at the time, but I'm allowed to use the library up to my clearance, and it's a room full of a bunch of tables. They're about the size of pool tables, and walls that are screens that you can touch and ask it anything, and it'll give you the data, let's say, of someone 20 years ago who worked on a being or a craft, and you can read up on that data and prepare you for that, or a mission. So you can look at past missions of these people who have been going through portals. The portal technologies are not perfected yet, as far as I know, at least as of January of this year. They're definitely not, because the team was lost, and they wanted me to come back and run one of the teams, but I'm done with that. And I don't want to endanger myself, because it's a perfect way to say, oh, there's just an accident, and it wasn't worth it. This is more important to educate you, and hopefully you take this home and educate your children, please. Yeah. Education is the biggest thing for our future of our existence, and we have to be really integrous and truthful, and we have to respect each other regardless of race or gender or anything. If we can't get along here, how the heck are you going to get along with an ET that believes in something totally different, or may look different? Maybe some ETs like the insectoids look a little scary, because that's just how they look. Like the reptilians have this frown, but they're not upset. I mean, he was upset because I said he stunk, but it's understandable. If someone said I smell, I would probably do the same thing. Go ahead. Oh, this is great. So this is coming out, and this is these devices where They put it on the body, and it shoots a holographic image above you, and you can manipulate it, you can zoom in on your organs, zoom in all the way on the cellular level, see if there's a cancer cell, and zap it with a frequency, and it's gone. All the VIPs have access to this technology, unfortunately. And I think in the future, well, I know in the future that everyone's going to have one of these tables or one of these small devices in every house, because self-diagnosis and self-treatment is where it's going. Sorry, docs. It's not fair that organizations are teaching physicians only one way to do something and not giving you an opportunity for giving you a choice to do other things or not take medication and maybe take an herbal Chinese supplement instead that's comparable to that. And we're getting in that direction, and they're really receptive to that because they can charge a little bit more at the pharmacy. And I gave them that idea. It's best we get away from that stuff and start using more natural things. Yeah, we're of Earth, but we're not 100% from Earth, so you know, and that's why it's hard to be here for a lot of us. So just be aware of that. But we're highly adaptable. The human body, the ETs think we're the superheroes because we can, every year we get stronger because we're subjected to inoculations and these lights and this EMF stuff around me, constantly under bombardment. And it's okay, you don't need to be scared about all that. Of course it's going to be there. You have the ability to activate certain parts of your brain to do amazing things. And I'm hoping that will soon be released so we can improve the quality of life. Yeah. What? Soon. Oh, doggy. Yeah. So here's a typical canine unit. They use Mastiff genetics and some other things. These dogs have exoskeleton suits. They can run 37 miles an hour. We equip them with cameras, all sorts of things, especially if there's caves or tunnels. We send them in, and they map. For 2 miles, they'll just run straight through a tunnel, and it maps the whole tunnel, and we can watch them as they're going through, and it's mapping everything, videotaping everything, and then they turn around and come back. They also used to help us because they can, there's a thing on their back, they can pull a 300-pound person about a mile back to safety if needed. Any questions on the doggy?
Yeah. My question is, this is a sentient being.
Yes. No, we made this being, and it's conscious, and it's a dog like your dog at home.
So how does consciousness get developed in a canine?
That's a great question. They are utilizing in vitro and also implanting, embryos into normal dogs to grow special hybrid dogs for missions. And when that happens, they are infused with consciousness just like any other baby. Clones, though, are a little bit different and programmed life forms. So if they're cloning and making hybrid beings that have circuitry in them, they are not conscious. So there are shells that you can also transfer the consciousness of that dog, and we have the DNA of that dog, and we can make and grow a cloned dog from that dog and infuse the consciousness into its DNA.
So where does the consciousness originate from? Where does that come from? Is that human consciousness, or do you create consciousness, like you talk about AI consciousness or self-awareness?
Yeah, well, that's not my specialty, but I'll just say my opinion is consciousness comes into most living things, even if we grow them. And that's all I can say about that. And consciousness can be transferred, and we know for a fact that your DNA has all your memories in it. So if we can just save a piece of your hair and you want to later on get put into another body, this is going to be the future. But behind the physics and science of that, that's beyond my pay grade.
Yeah, so you see consciousness interchangeable with spirit?
Well, that's another good question. So, the whole thing with the spirit, the soul, or people have different terms for that. Yeah, we're not changing the consciousness. It's already there, because even if you're gone right now, your consciousness still is there in the universe. It's here, it's everywhere, because we're all the same, and we're all sharing this consciousness. You follow me now? All right. It's not separate, but when they're in the projects meddling with extraterrestrial DNA from animals and plants from other systems, and trying to mix it with humans, and growing it in a lab environment, that's the question that we're trying to figure out. Like, do they have a soul? Where is the consciousness coming from? Is it just because they were born on Earth, or we grew them on Earth? The clones that are 100% clones are conscious. They're people, just like us, and that's already been done as well.
But how can they download a spirit or a soul into a clone?
Yeah, that I don't know. I just know the consciousness part. They can do that. And the consciousness part of that recording of that crystal in your body goes on forever, and it can be recorded and put back into another being.
Do clones have the same rights as the first ones?
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to talk to China about that, because they're the only ones that are coming public with that.
The question was, do clones have the same rights as the original?
Yeah, it's not public yet, just so you know. It's not public knowledge yet, except for everyone here speaking about it. That will be, I'm sure, a huge talk later on when people do get the choice to choose to move on to another shell. Yeah. Next slide. Hold on, guys. Hold on.
How soon you're going to start to see those tables, and you're going to start to see this medicine acting as you work for the people, for the public, educating it about it in years from here?
That's not up to me. I can just talk about it, and the reason I do these talks is not only for you, it's because a lot of other important people around the world are listening to this, and they want it out too. And I'm talking about the cabal and major corporations. And since I've been coming forward and talking about it, more and more things are being released. So I think it's up to us, to talk about these things and inspire these organizations and corporations to release this information. And it's happening very slowly. Everyone, like yesterday someone stood up, well, I want it now. Well, I would too, but it doesn't work that way. And it's not up to me, it's up to all of us. And it's about education and including everyone. And we cannot separate them, the cabal. Okay, we have to include the political government and these things to get these amazing cures and things out. Yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah, you can't just look at someone and there's I remember. Oh, he was asking how can you tell if they're a clone or not, correct? Yeah, that's very difficult.
My understanding is they're already cloning soldiers, and that if they get blown up, they have to capture back the soul because they're fragments. And they're supposed to, and that's why nuclear bombs were, it's against galactic law, because the whole soul gets blown up, and they're really busy trying to prove anything, otherwise you got to yourself.
She's saying that your soul is fragmented once you're cloned, and you have to get these.
They're blown up, but they can pull it all back in. It's just that when there's a nuclear bomb, that's a different story.
Yeah, true. All right, but if we're going to do questions, we have to have a mic so everyone knows what's going on. It's not fair to everyone here if you can't hear what's going on. But let's go ahead and do the slides. All right, go ahead. Olivia, let's do another one. Keep going. Yeah. Oh, isn't there another? Oh. There should be another. There's not another. Yeah, but where's the main here? Let's see. I'm going to give it to you. There should be another folder with pictures and videos. That's it. Okay.
Can you talk about the healing frequencies, like the royal life, that thing heals you frequencies?
Yeah, well, it's moving into the direction where we're going away from surgery, and we're using frequencies because it's, we are a frequency, and all your cells have different frequencies that make up your frequency, which is recorded by the government. So they know where everyone's at all the time, which is fine. Frequencies can be used as weapons, and it also can be used to destroy negative ionic bacteria and anything that has a negative charge in your body, such as like cancers and bacteria. So by like the Rife machine and things like this, and someone also came up to me yesterday with an LET medical cosmetic scanner system, which I highly recommend, but you cannot order those. There you are. These things are really amazing things that are been used for a while. The astronauts get to have one, and now they're available to the public, but you cannot order it from Russia or Germany directly into the United States because they will take the circuit chip out of it, and it'll just be a TENS unit. So they did open a business in Canada. So if you're ever in Canada or over in Europe, you can bring it back with you on the plane, because they're going to look at it and turn it on and say, okay, they don't know what it is. LET Medical, it's called, it's a Scanner Cosmetic Energy Device. You can just look that up. I highly recommend. Everyone should have one. They're quite costly, but they can eliminate all sorts of things, and you should take the course in it if you're going to use it, not just grab it and like stick it on your forehead. It's excellent too for the face. We do facelifts with it. It tightens up the muscles without having any injections or surgery. It's LET Medical. It's called a Scanner Cosmetic Device. There's many different models. LET. Yeah. Yeah, the only places you can get it without it being messed with is from Canada or Europe. Yeah, it's right there. Yeah, hey, bring it up. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm not going to give it back. Okay, if it's a present, I'll show it.
Stick your tongue out.
I know, right? Little device. See, it has these little things here. So it sends the transmissions in, and it reads your body, and it knows.
Stem cell regeneration and cellular repair.
Mm-hmm. It stimulates cytokines and other proteins in your body to help repair your body. And it also eliminates pain pretty quickly. Have you experienced that? Yeah. Anywhere from 8,500 to 15,000, depending what model you get. This is 7,300, he said.
This is the top of the line.
Mm-hmm. Is there any more water? Right here?
People are upset that you're doing the same thing from yesterday, so look at your...
I know. Okay, guys, let's have a seat.
That's the question of all
I never had a negative experience with extraterrestrials. They all had an impact on me, and a profound impact on me. There's not like one species. Most of the species, too, are very human-looking. That's another misconception about, the whole 3,000 autopsies. It was tissue samples, not 3,000 full-body aliens, as my colleagues embellish a little bit. So let's get back on track.
Well, one other thing, all these space astronauts are human beings.
So during the projects, if you keep your mouth shut and you keep working, and you'll get a higher security clearance every 3 months. And at that time, I was a very well-behaved person, not like I am now, and was able to get access to not only the library, but also more projects that involve spacecraft. And that's that was my introduction to the propulsion units and things like that. And I'm not a physicist or anything, but because of the craft and the beings, it moved into that direction. We had very detailed maps of a lot of the planets here in the solar system inside the library. And everything's kind of like a 3D hologram. So you could go up to these tables and you can pull up things, planets and other things, and a lot of, even the moon and things like this have been already mapped out and scanned, and we had access to that. So I knew right away that there's even more planets that we knew of, and that there's also some cover-ups going on with the moon with 3D holographic imaging, which they have perfected in a way that you would not even believe. Because they can now 3D project this, and it casts a shadow, and palpable, but you can go through it. They use this technology in 9/11. It's a lot better now. So when I see something, it's very hard for me to accept anything anymore, because I know they have the ability to make an illusion. And I have a lot of, get a lot of calls and emails and people sending amazing things in, but they're basically was just a 3D holographic image.
How was it used in 9/11?
The aircraft.
So the building was not damaged?
The building was damaged and all those people died. There was nobody on the airplanes. Dick Cheney. Bush family. Bush family was three doors down in Virginia from Osama's parents. Yeah. So on good behavior, you get credits. The credits allow you to use the library off hours. It was a plethora of information that I became addicted to going to work, because I couldn't really, it was hard for me growing up. I had a visitation at a young age, the age of 7, on my farm when a craft came down over the lake, and I saw beings in this saucer-type blue light craft. And since that time, I knew there was something out there. I did go inside and told my parents, and they said, "Oh, that's nice, but don't mention that in school." And that was it. And I just was like, "That's it." Like, okay. So I just thought they just didn't believe me. But later on, they did open up to me about some things that they had experienced. My dad was in the Navy, and my grandfather was in the Army. The nations all around are joining in on this library now and sharing information. And that's a good thing, because the more the information leaves the underground, the more it's easy to intercept by hackers and other people. And I believe a lot of disclosure is going to happen this year due to civilian interest, since now people can purchase box satellites very cheap, and you can outfit it with any cameras you want. And we're making a film, The Beans, a documentary. Olivia and I are, you're going to come with Olivia and I, and we're going to fly you around the world and show you what we do. We take samples of tissues of beings that we don't know what it is, like we did with the Atacama being. So look forward to that. There's information on the booth about that. We're going to show. No, we can't show. We're going to show eventually. Just keep checking on the website, but you'll see that trailer coming up. So so getting back to the facility, when you have access, to this, the computer knows how much access you can have. And I did make 2 mistakes while on the projects where I thought it was not going to end well for me, because I went into areas that were I didn't have clearance for. You have a band that goes on you, and they know where you're at all the time. There's a lighted floor with lines that go on for almost a quarter mile with different types of operating rooms and laboratories and things. So I know when I change out into my uniform, not my suit, but my uniform, and I'm going to be in red 22 today. So, I follow the red line to room 22, and that's where I report. And there's over 300 or so rooms on just one floor. So I'm not the only person that's doing this. And we're getting more insiders now after I've come out that you guys are seeing on Gaia that are coming forward. So I'm really excited to know that these people are making huge choices and risk to come up to validate a lot of stuff that I'm saying now. So you should be seeing a lot more of this coming up this coming year. Yeah. How do you guys like Randy Weitenheimer? Did you guys see that episode? Yeah, you guys got to see it on Gaia.
The library you were talking about, is that like a holographic library?
Yeah, it's a holographic library, but there's also old text and books. The Vatican actually has like real old tablets and text and things like this, but we have copies of that at the library. And yeah, it is a 3D holographic image, and we can scan a body, and we can 3D print the body and operate on the body before we actually go and operate on the body. And the same thing with the craft. We've recently found some craft underground using special radar technologies. And I'm so happy now because they don't go in there and just like destroy everything like they did in Roswell and bulldoze everything. They're like, they want to learn about this. Like, what is going on? Like, what is this craft? So they will scan the craft, and with giant machines, they will 3D print these machines like they 3D print houses now. And then we'll do a mock walk-in and examine everything. And it also will show organic materials, and it'll tell us what the materials are. We get called out to do remote viewing on a lot of these projects, and it's to verify through their radar and narrowing down the area of the location of things that are buried, and it's confirmation for them. So we get into it with the scientists a lot because they don't believe in this WSFM. We're science and frickin' magic, and and we'll go out there, like Olivia and I, we'll put flags down, we'll have a big area that's all posted off and grafted out, and they said, well, in this 20 acres, there's something, in here, could you please? So we'll walk down, up and down, we'll place our flags, and then they'll run the radar over it, and, I'm about 90% effective, but when I have Olivia with me, I'm over 100% effective, so when you have more than 2 remote viewers that get the same hit, it's pretty much most of the time a definite. And we, knock on wood, we've been successful every time. And someone had a question right here. Here.
Henry, there seems to be a big disconnect for me. All the advances, all the technology of healing, and the spaceship is
When an interdimensional being comes into this dimension, he falls under the same laws. They're not bulletproof. So they're taking a risk. I know everyone thinks, oh, they just like move out of the way like in Matrix, or can they just, no, they still fall under the exact same scientific laws that we have to. So they can be killed, Remember in Predator? If it bleeds, we can kill it. Most of the crashes, though, are hybrids or clones or programmed life forms, like the little grays. Are not real, they're not conscious, they were made. And so a lot of these things you're hearing out there, when they collect things, they're not usually 100% of that species. It might be a clone, a hybrid that has circuitry in it, and they intentionally crash here, or they intentionally let us find them so we can kind of understand and get new science to advance us a little bit more.
If we're only using a very small portion of our intellect, you're talking about the lizard dude walking by and he can hear it in his mind.
Yes.
Who's saying, boy, you stink. Can we learn to advance our own intellect so that we can also have those capabilities?
Yeah, you already have it. A good example of it is everyone's already connected. It's just you have to be aware that you're connected, number one. You have to be aware to be grounded. And it's like someone coming into your home who had a really bad day. Now, everyone in your house is happy. Now, someone comes home, they're really angry. What happens when that person comes in? Do you start getting a little irritated? I don't want to be there. I start getting irritated. So think of it that way, but reverse that. So let's give love. Let's, give healing. Let's project more positive. Even just walking down the street, you wouldn't believe the profound effect. And everyone's going through trials and tribulations, and we're going through some really hard times. But if you start thinking in a different way and not picking on the negative parts, let's pick on the positive parts. And you'll be amazed at what happens.
So this question is, you're in the field of medicine, really, and healing people. That's where you're going. But what do you think? I've been following this for a number of years. What do you think of this idea that's happening globally, coming to a head, forced vaccination?
Yeah, vaccinations. I can tell you about vaccinations. I bet you have more than all of you put together. So, vaccinations, and this is just my opinion, I don't believe in vaccinations, and I don't think they should be giving vaccinations. So, that you can take that with a grain of salt, and if it feels right for you that you need to do that for your family, then go ahead and do it. Are you going to die over vaccination? I don't believe so. Are there things in that vaccination to manipulate your DNA and to possibly control you in the future or your race? Yes. There are evil agendas out there with inoculations that they can send a signal out and only kill a specific race. And this is, unfortunately, a lot of this actually stemmed from religious activity, I'll just say, unfortunately.
Annie, I've heard before, and I think it was in your talks, maybe in Gaia or with you, Loka, about certain
Go ahead.
beings wanting humans for their souls because they're soulless. Is there any truth to that?
You're saying he said they want our souls? No, no, that's not.
Beings have souls in the universe.
Beings have souls, they're conscious.
All ETs or interdimensionals have souls.
Yes, yeah, they're just you a few billion years from now. So you keep elevating. As you progress and ascend every day when you're learning, you guys also, later on, when you get out of this crazy shell, will have choices. And some might want to come back and some might want to move forward. And depending on how things went here for you, it depends. Olivia and I had near-death experiences. My mom had 3 of them. And I remember my mom saying, mean, I was right there, and I saw my body on the table, and she got hit head-on by a semi, and the propane tank we had in the back seat of the Toyota Corolla went through the back seat and smashed her head, and the steering wheel went through her chest, and she was dead on the scene, and they resuscitated her, and then she died on the way there to the hospital, and then during the emergency surgery, she died, and the doctor, I remember, came out and just said, you know, she's not going to make it. There's a very small chance she could, and she did. And her story was, I was above my body, and I saw my body, and I saw the docs, and I was going towards this light, and Jesus was there, and he said, no, you got to go back. You got to. And she got in an argument with him. No, what? I've been a great follower for my whole life from you. Now you're going to send me what? And I get a kick out of that, and I'm so glad she came back. And she did. So it's an inside joke with us and you as well. What happened with you? So we are, you know, moving out of this. We have an etheric field. We have an astral field. We have a soul. We have a spirit. All these things are part of you. And I want you to stop thinking of the materialistic part of you and start thinking about how beautiful, you know, this person is on the inside. Because this right here is not real. It's not real. What's in here and what you feel is real. This is your holdback. This sets you back because you want to make and rationalize what you just saw or what you didn't see. On CE5s, when we go out there's some people, you know, they just don't believe, which is fine. And we'll have, you know, 30 people there, and 20 people will see the craft right in front of us, and the other 10 can't see it. It's a choice. And, you know, and some people are not ready for that, and the ETs know that. So they're very directional when they're speaking to you on these expeditions like tonight. We're going to be looking up at the sky, but I also want you to start listening, because they also speak in harmonics, and they also speak with music. What you would think or sound like music. It's a language, and it's one of the only languages in the universe that we all can relate to. And it is a language.
What do you know about age regression?
From that one? Oh, yeah, you have that? Oh, yeah, show that. Okay, I apologize. Go ahead. Who has the microphone? Oh, no, give it to her.
Okay, where is she?
The lovely lady here.
She said, what do you know about age regression?
I said, what do you know about age regression technology?
That's better. I just turned 21, as you know. It does exist. I was working with Guy Opolinsky up there with the phaser unit, and he had this amazing Teslatron unit that you lose time in. And I've never said this publicly, so here's the camera, and you're my witnesses. And you get into this room, in this hexagon room with this small massage table and this barrier, transparent barrier about 3 feet from the table, and a Teslatron unit behind it. And immediately when they amp it up, you know, your hair kind of stands up a little bit, and it literally looks like you're looking at the universe. And next time I'm going to bring that. You're going to see it. It's going to be, you know, we're putting all this new technology in the clinic in Boulder we're trying to develop right now, and it's going to take about a year or two. But these things are going to be available for all of you, and you're going to have them in your home, because this will basically does the same thing that we talked about earlier about changing the negative particles in your body into positive particles, or destroying cancers and tumors and things like that. But the question, as far as age regression, let's talk about alpha-2 macroglobulin, which is a protein in your body. And that is Dr. Gaetano Scuderi, amazing spine surgeon in Jupiter, Florida, has developed a system to concentrate a certain protein in your body. It's a protease inhibitor, which destroys any type of inflammation, as you know. And what happens is, we realized during the testing there was a side effect. Now, we've been able to regenerate tissue. I've been able to regenerate tissue forever. It's just one of the systems I developed. We're treating a horse, actually. And what has happened is, we were testing it on tenocytes and tendons and ligaments and articular cartilage and trying to regenerate that, because platelet-rich plasma and stem cells, when we infuse that, it creates angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels, which allows the body to actually get the nutrients it needs when you eat more effectively to that area to help heal itself. Yeah, it's simple science. And you have it all in your body. So we learned ways to concentrate it. So we take a little bit of your blood, a little bit of your fat around the umbilicus, which is your belly button, with a small mini liposuction using a very small syringe. And we spin this down, and sometimes we add enzymes out of it to extract those stromal vascular fractionated stem cells. Or we might stick a small needle into your posterior iliac crest and pull out the bone marrow, which is blood. It's not like people say, bone marrow. Oh my God, they think of like drills going into you or something like that. No, it's not that. It's a small needle that, we got to talk about that. The photon. I love light therapy. How many people know what that is? IV light therapy. All right, so I don't want to get off on a tangent. Let's go back to the age regression. So there's some colleagues of mine, they claim to have gone back in time and do a lot of things, but I have no experience with that whatsoever. I have experience on the scientific side where we were able to anti-age the hardest cell in the body, which is tenocytes. You know what that means? If we can do that with tenocytes, we can do it with every cell in the body. It is an anti-inflammatory. All disease, sickness, trauma, car accidents start with what? Yeah, inflammation. And you need inflammation sometimes, but over-inflammation puts a hold on the cells that you really need to get there because of the pressure it creates on the clot. So by reducing the inflammation, you can heal twice as fast, or even faster. Can I show Cobra Kid? All right, let's show Cobra. I'll show it. I want to show it. You guys know Cobra Kid? I was volunteering at a very young age at the Octagon Wildlife Sanctuary down in near Fort Myers, Florida, and it was great because after joining the military at 18 and getting out of the military, I went back there to help treat the animals. This man, he's passed now, had the biggest heart for animals. And he basically would drive from Florida all the way to Seattle because a zoo was closing and they were going to euthanize the entire, and all of them. So he went up there and his buddy with huge trailers and took the lions and the elephants and brought them all back. And there was a zoo manager there by the name of David Weathers. And he's like a Crocodile Dundee crossed with Jackass. You know those boys, Jackass? And I was a paramedic for them on many sets, just for a few times. And then I was like, I can't hang with you guys. You guys are way too extreme. Because you have to wear a cup. Because they just go around hitting each other. They think it's funny. So David Weathers comes up to me as I was treating one of the tigers one day. And he's like, hey, you know the stuff that you're putting on the animals and the baboons? And he's like, you know, I got this bad wound, man. I got bit by a monocle king cobra, 10-footer, 3 days ago. and almost died. And he goes, and I got this hole in my stomach. And I'm looking at him, and he's in his like wife beater, and he's sweaty from, cleaning up animals, what we were doing. Lifts it up, he's got this makeshift bandage on, and he rips it open, and I can see his intestines, and it's all black. And I said, Dave, you have to go to the emergency room right now. I'm not touching you because it's all dead tissue. I said, you're septic, your eyes, you're jaundiced. I said, you're going to die probably within 24 hours. He goes, oh, I got to go back there? He says, I already took 10 vials of antivenom, which is not normal. I mean, this cobra kills, can kill you in 15 minutes, a human. So it's all on camera, and this is what made me really famous, because I just came out with this device, which is platelet-rich plasma that concentrates platelet-rich plasma. And you want to see it? Yeah. Can you bring it up? Do we have a charger? Yeah. So he came. So I said, Dave, listen. I said, Dave, and just go now. You need to be on antibiotics. You need emergency surgery to debride all this terrible tissue. I can make a living tissue graft with your blood, and it will turn into whatever I put it next to. Look it up. But you can't put it on that. So I said, come back tomorrow. If it's cleaned up, I'll do this for you and help you out. But I'm not touching that because I'll be in jail tomorrow, and you'll die. You'll blame me. So next day I come back, and here he is, and he said, we can do this. I'm feeling great. He looked great. He even looked better. His color was back. I was like, oh, Dave, I'm sorry it was so rough on you, but you had to do that. He's like, yeah, no problem. It worked out great. So he came in, and he's on this table, which you're going to see, and we pull off the bandage, and it's like so perfectly excised. I mean, they cut everything out perfect. I can see all the layers, the muscle, the fascia, subcutaneous, and of course, you know what. And I was like, oh, man, this is fantastic. Okay, so let's do it. So we sterilize everything and get everything done. And as I'm applying and injecting this, as you're going to see, he says, I said, Dave, because I know every physician down South Florida. I said, which wound care doc did this? I was like, this is an excellent job. I'm so glad you did this. He goes, and he's laying down, he just looked at me, that look, I was like, David? He goes, oh man, I'm not going to go back to those doctors. I can't stand them, I said, what do you mean? He goes, man, last night I just smoked a doobie. I got my razors and scissors, and I just cut it out myself. And you know what, Emery? I pushed my belly, and this softball black thing just popped out like an egg. And I was like, I said, did it hurt? He goes, yeah, it hurt. I said, Dave, you cannot do that. I said, you're going to get an infection now, and I'm going to go to jail. And he's like, no, Emery, it's okay. I've used alcohol. All right. It's worse than the patient that I had at the Space Coast Air Medical Institute, lovely man who had a diabetic wound, and he was up for amputation. And so they gave me the worst cases. So I only did the worst cases to prove that PRP works. And that patient, just to tell you the story, his whole foot was completely black, and I couldn't believe he could live with the smell, because definitely he's not going to lose his leg, but definitely the foot probably needed to go. And I said, what have you been doing? What's your treatment? He goes, well, I wake up every day. I have my leg treated 2 to 3 times a day, and it seemed to be okay, but my wife is complaining about the smell. I said, okay, well, what's the treatment plan? I mean, what are you doing for the treatment? He goes, well, I have my dog come in. He licks my foot for like 15 minutes while I watch TV, and dogs can really heal themselves. So you have this technology in you, all of you. You have everything you need to heal yourself. Sometimes we have to come up with devices to help concentrate those healing energies, because the healing proteins are energies that help talk to your body and help communicate to help you heal faster. So we're very successful with saving a lot of limbs, especially with diabetics with wounds, is how PRP really got started. So I think we're good? They're using it now, and you can just search PRP and A2M and stem cells. Autologous, that means comes from your own body. You don't want someone else's. Don't do that. But it's everywhere, and it's available. So all you have to do is ask for PRP from your doc, and you got it.